Press record. And we're going to focus today on accepting ourselves with all our imperfections. And I have a nice reading that I'll share at the end of class about that. But let's make our way down onto our mats, and we'll begin lying down. So go ahead and make your way over your mat and start lying down, and just begin with your feet on the floor. Feel free to have a blanket under your head if that's more comfortable, or a pillow. And as you're lying down, just notice how that feels as your body relaxes into the support of the floor. And if we think about how the body feels, we're experiencing sensation. And ideally, we can experience that sensation just as an experience without judging that experience as good or bad. If we have pain, then it's hard not to think that that's bad. We don't like pain. We don't want pain. But our physical reality is what it is. And it's useful to understand how we're feeling. So we begin our practice by trying to just connect with how we're feeling. And it's useful to recognize the feeling of our relationship to the ground. And in that way, we can ground ourselves. We can cultivate stability, groundedness, centeredness. So feel your body, feel the ground, and just be aware of how you're feeling this morning. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. And this is a difficult time. So emotionally, we might be struggling with all that's going on in our lives and in the world. But can you just recognize how you're feeling and try to be accepting of it? Rather than criticizing or judging yourself for feeling a certain way, can you imagine that you like your own best friend who's confiding in you how they're feeling, and try to be as understanding as you can for how you're feeling this morning. Offer yourself those words of understanding, of kindness, of acceptance or encouragement for the way that you feel this morning. Because we are not perfect. None of us is perfect. None of us is always feeling perfect, great, fine, happy. We are complex. We have all kinds of feelings. And we are our own best friend. So let's be kind to ourselves. And let's offer ourselves a way to practice and move this morning that recognizes how we're feeling and is appropriate for how we're feeling. So take a few deep breaths in and out. Notice how it feels to breathe deeply, inviting the breath in and down, and letting the breath empty all the way out. You can blow it out, or just breathe out through your nose. Let's inhale through the nose if you can. Nice full inhalation, expanding. And let your exhale be a full release. Just do a few more rounds of deep breathing. Notice how the breath moves your body. Notice how the exhale is so relaxing, calming, soothing. And do that one more time. As you transition to more natural breath rhythm, take a moment to soften the roof of your mouth. And then as we begin to move, let's open our eyes if they're closed. Take your feet off the floor, hug your knees into chest. Just gently sway a little bit side to side. Give your low back a little massage. Sway center and lift your legs up in the air, dropping your arms at your side. Just alternate flexing and pointing, stretching into the backs of the legs here. We'll circle the ankles around in one direction, spreading out or wiggling the toes. Circle the ankles in the other direction, loosening up in whatever way feels good. Maybe hold the outsides of your legs and allow the legs to drop out into a straddle. You could hold the outer legs, or you could press down along the inner line of the legs if that feels good. Take a breath. We can bend the knees here and press the knees back in and release the feet down. Then reach your arms up to the ceiling, fingertips to the ceiling, palms facing. Drop the back of your shoulders back down into the floor so there's a little more space from shoulder to shoulder. And then bend your elbows so your fingertips point back towards the wall behind you. Your arms are like a right angle, elbows straight up from your shoulders. And then take your feet off the floor so you have bent knees, bent arms, beginning dead bug position here. Let's inhale and reach arms and legs up. And we'll exhale and bend arms and knees back. So we're just lifting up on the in-breath and exhaling to bend. Just getting the hang of this movement. Stretching up as we breathe in and bending as we breathe out. So from here, from our dead bug position, let's do opposite arm and opposite leg. Opposite arm and opposite leg go up with the in-breath and bend on the exhale. Opposite arm and opposite leg go up. And then we bend. So we're just alternating. Some of us have been doing this a long time. This is very readily available. Sometimes this is a little more challenging to get the hang of, but just be patient with yourself. We'll all get it eventually. Opposite arm and opposite leg, warming up the two sides of the body, the two sides of the brain here. With this contralateral movement, we'll do one more time on each side. Inhaling to lift. And exhaling to bend. And then we'll lift both arms and legs straight up toward the ceiling. Again, check in that the back of your shoulders are dropped back, space across your collarbones. So now draw an imaginary line down the center of your body from your nose, chin, sternum, pubic bone. Try to keep that line steady as your one leg goes out to the side and your other arm goes out to the side. So as you open out, try to keep that midline steady and then bring that arm and leg back up. And do the other side. The other leg goes out, the other arm goes out as you breathe in. And exhale, arm and leg back up. So again, opening out on the in-breath, making sure you're not shifting or lifting your hips. Exhale to come back up, opening out on the in-breath. And exhaling back up. We'll do a few more of these. If you need to take a break, go ahead and take a break. As you're opening your leg out to the side, make sure that your hips stay steady. That line doesn't veer off. That midline is rock solid here. So go to the edge of where you can keep that stability. If you went any further, you might lose that stability. Your hip might lift or your hips might turn. Go right to the edge so your core is working to stabilize. We're going to do one more time on each side. Opening out with the in-breath. Exhaling as you come back up. And last one like this, opening out and coming back up. All right. Hug your knees in if you need a little break. We have another layer of dead bug here. We're going to take one arm overhead, thumb reaching back toward the floor. And the opposite leg, we have two options. You could tap a toe and bring that leg back up, or extend that leg out so it almost touches the floor, and then bring the arm and leg back up. So other leg, other arm, inhale to reach out, and exhale to come back up. So we continue with that contralateral movement. We continue synchronizing breath and movement. You might be extending the leg, you might be tapping a toe. So we're activating the lower belly here to support the movement of the leg. Inhaling to extend. If you find that when you extend the leg that your low back arches, you have the option to not lower the leg as far or to just tap the toe. You want to keep the low back neutral here as we do this. So we'll do a few more of these. Always welcome to take a break if that seems more appropriate for you. Inhaling to extend, exhaling back up. If you take a break, then join back with us. Let's do one more time on each side. Inhaling as you extend, exhaling as you come back up. And then our final layer, again, take a break and hug in if you want a little rest. And then we're going to reach both arms overhead, your thumbs reaching back toward the floor, or maybe the back of your hands can rest on the ground. Push out through your heels as you breathe in. And then with an exhale, we're going to slowly, gradually extend the legs away. And pay attention to your low back. It's going to be hard not to keep the back from arching, but you're going to contract your abdominals to try to keep your back from arching. When you can no longer do that, bring your knees in. Inhale your legs up. Exhale, press your heels out and lower the legs away. So the hip flexors are working here, but the low belly is going to keep the back from lifting. When the back can't stop from lifting, hug your knees in, lift your legs up, and do a few more of these. Pressing out through the heel, you decide how far your legs can go and maintain that stability in your low back. Let's do one more. Heels come up, pressing away, extend the legs away from you. How far can you go? This time as your knees come in, reach your arms up, grab onto your knees, hug them in, releasing the low back, maybe sway again. Breathe. We're done with dead bug. Nice job. Go ahead and release your feet to the floor. And since we really work those hip flexors, let's just release them with a gentle bridge pose. So feet about hip distance apart, press into your feet and just lift your hips up in the air. Just stretch out the front of the thighs and into the front of the hips here with a breath. And then just lower yourself back down. Great. All right, roll to your side so you're facing your computer and come onto your forearm. And if you're on a hard surface, if you want to cushion your forearm with a pillow or a blanket, go ahead and do so. So we have our elbow beneath our shoulder and we'll place our other hand on our hip. Let's stack the knees. They're kind of on an open angle. They're not necessarily a right angle. It's more of an open angle. So top hand on the hip. We're going to press the bottom leg down to lift the hips up. So the hips lift up off the floor. And so we're working, we're bearing the load on the shoulder here, and we're contracting this bottom side waist to hold us up. So if we were to contract that bottom side waist a little bit more, we might be able to lift the hips a little higher. We're just going to hold this position. The top hand can be on your hip, or you could try lifting that arm up toward the ceiling. Could you lift the hips maybe a micro-centimeter higher, or maybe a centimeter higher? So we can hold here just like this, taking a breath, or we could try taking that arm forward, and can you turn your chest a little more toward the floor? You might sweep that arm kind of underneath your waist, turning your chest more towards the floor, and then bring it back forward. So a hand could go to hip or arm could reach up, take a breath, maybe lift the hips slightly higher. Let's try that one more time. Bring that top arm forward, turn the chest toward the floor, and maybe sweep that arm under your waist, and then come back forward. Let's just hold here for a breath, and then we'll lower the hip down. All right, push yourself up, swing your legs forward, come around to the other side. Again, if that's too much weight on your forearm, cushion it. Put something under there. You could fold your mat over a couple times or put a blanket under there. So we've got the elbow beneath the shoulder, top hand on the hip. We'll press that bottom knee down to lift up. And can we engage this bottom sideways to maybe lift the hips a little higher? Hand could be on the hip and you could just be holding, or that top arm could reach up. Take a breath here, maybe lifting the hips just a teeny bit higher. And then reach that arm forward. Can you turn your chest towards the floor? Take that arm and sweep it under your waist. So you're kind of facing the ground. And then bring the chest towards the computer. Inhale the arm up, lift the hips. Again, arm comes forward. We start to rotate toward the ground, sweeping the arm under. And then come back towards the camera. Inhale here, lift the hips. Great. And then bring yourself down. Let's come on to all fours now. If kneeling bothers you, you can cushion your knees, or you could stand with your hands on a chair and do this with your feet beneath you, if that's better for you. So as you come here, spread the weight out on your hands, not all the weight on the heel of the hands. Put some weight into your fingers, your knuckles, your thumbs. Maybe move your hips a little side to side. And then come center. So we're going to do a little cat-cow. So you can start with either arching or extending. You can, arch your back, and then you can round your back. Just kind of do whatever feels good initially. Just move your spine into flexion and extension. And even just breathe in any way that seems to work well for you here. Just arch and extend in any way that feels nice for you. One more time. And then come to your flat back. So we might recognize we have this natural arch in our low back, and it's bigger for some than others, but we very readily can arch the low back. But it's harder for us to arch our upper back, our thoracic spine. So I want you to kind of put a little tone in your belly, engage your abdominal muscles a little bit, so that you're not going to arch your low back as much, and see if you keep your low back a little less arching, could you extend or arch a little more into your upper back with a little tone in your belly. And exhale as you do this. So we can take a breath in initially, but then exhale as you hold this extended spine. Arching more between your shoulder blades if you can. Yeah. And then come to your flat back. So then there's also, we naturally round more in our upper back and less in our lower back. So as you start to move into flexion or rounding, see if you can round a little less in your upper back and invite the rounding a little more into your lower back. And even maybe take your hips slightly back, and maybe you'll feel a little more rounding into your lower back. And take a breath. And then come back to your flat back. So one more time like that, with a little tone in your belly to support your low back, keep your low back from arching as much. Can you start to arch or extend your spine less in your low back and try to accentuate the extension in your upper back between your shoulder blades? Take a breath here and then exhale. And then return to your flat back. And then as we round, rather than all the rounding happening in the upper back, kind of minimize that and try to round more into your lower back. And maybe take your hips slightly behind you to deepen the rounding into your lumbar spine. And take a breath. And then come back to your flat back. Great. All right, let's take the weight off the wrists, sitting back into child's pose. You might have your arms way out in front. You could rest your head on your arms. You could bring your arms alongside your body, whatever feels best for you. Take a moment here to check in. So my last instructions about flexing and extending and arching and rounding the back were kind of complicated. And sometimes when we aren't sure of what we're doing, we kind of get down on ourselves. So how are we doing at being encouraging with ourselves and being supportive of treating ourselves like our own best friend? Check in with that as you breathe in and out. And then with your next inhale, lift your head up, reach your arms out in front, and make your way up to downward facing dog. As we make our way to downward facing dog, let's again push the weight into the whole hand, knuckles, fingers, thumbs. Take your hips back, release your head, shake your head a little bit. Maybe shift your weight a little side to side. Maybe begin to pedal your heels down, bending a knee and pressing a heel down. Just kind of exploring how it feels to be here, seeing the world from a different perspective. Go ahead and bend both knees a bit, keeping the hands rooted. Draw the hips way up and back. So when we pedal the heels down, we kind of lengthen the lower part of the leg. As we're here with a nice long spine, how would it feel to try to lift the back of the thighs up and maybe get a little more length in the upper part of the leg? You can still have a little bend in your knees, that's fine. Take a deep breath in and out. Let the breath empty. And then walk your hands back towards your feet. Heels releasing to the floor. Feet connected to the ground now. Fold it over like a rag doll. Then let's draw the belly in and begin to roll ourselves up. So in this practice, we really offer an opportunity to create a more supple, mobile spine. And here we have a chance to articulate the spine as we come up slowly, gradually, incrementally, and just get in touch with how that feels. Great. Once you're standing tall, let's turn and face our computers. We're going to do sumo pose. So we have our heels a little wider than hips and our toes turned out. Hands come to hips. Let's bend the knees, and as the knees go forward, we're going to take the hips back. So knees go forward and hips go back. Do that again. Knees bending forward towards your toes, hips going back into the space behind you. The tendency sometimes here is to drop the chest real low. Keep your chest up as you do that. All right, from here, lift your right heel up real high. We're going to lower it slowly for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, touch and lift. Let's try it again. Slowly lower, 5, 4, 3, 2. Lower that heel down. We'll lift the other heel up real high and slowly lower, 5, 4, 3, 2, touch and lift. This is good for the arches of the feet. One more time. 5, 4, 3, 2. Drop the heel down and then we'll straighten up. Nice. Let's do that again. Take the hips back, take the knees out in the direction of the toes. This time we're going to lift both heels up real high and slowly lower. 5, 4, 3, 2, touch and lift. And you know, you can always be holding onto a chair here if that would be helpful. Slowly lower. 5, 4, 3, 2. Drop the heels and straighten up. One more time, we're going to take the hips back and the knees forward. Now we're going to tone the pelvic floor. We're just going to lift the heels a teeny bit. So your heels are grazing the mat. And then we'll straighten the legs. Yeah, dropping the heels, do that again. Hips back, knees forward. We'll lift the heels just ever so slightly. And with the heels slightly grazing, straighten your legs. Nice job. Dropping your heels down. We'll bring our feet together. We'll come and stand at the front of our mat. So root down into your feet. Send your roots down to stand tall. Just notice how lovely it feels to stand upright with your chest nice and open, space across your collarbones, with your spine nice and upright. Maybe think about lifting the back of the head. With your feet rooting down, providing that stability. Let's reach the arms out, expand and widen, broaden here. And then inhale the arms up, lifting ribs and shoulders, maybe lifting the heart a little bit. And then let the arms sweep out and we'll fold over. forward fold. Knees can be soft. Take a breath into your upper back. As you exhale, extend your spine forward. You can have fingertips on the floor, hands on your shins. Try to extend between the shoulder blades like we did earlier. Let's again round and breathe into the upper back. And then extend and try to extend between the shoulder blades. Great. All right, let's bring our hands to the floor and step back to downward facing dog. Take the hips back, lengthen your spine. Deep breath here. Exhale to straight arm plank. Shoulders over wrists here. Nice and long and strong. Welcome to drop to knees if that's better for you, or knees could be up. We'll take a breath here. To try to strengthen the back of the arms a bit, try a little bend in your elbows. And can you do that without letting your hips drop, without letting your head drop? Take a breath here, and then lower yourself down onto the floor. Come into prone mountain, letting your chest sink down, taking the heels of your hands back a bit. As your chest comes close to the floor, rotate your head. So you're looking into the mat, the crown of your head is forward. Reach back through your toes, lengthen through the crown. Let's inhale up to baby cobra. Lifting from between the shoulder blades, pulling the heart forward, not taking the chin out in front, keeping the back of the neck long. We'll exhale and lower back down. Let's do that again. Inhale up to baby cobra. Lift the hands a little bit off the floor. Try to lift your elbows up toward the ceiling, slightly hug them in. Wake up the muscles in the upper back. Release your hands down, release your chest. Hover your nose a centimeter off the floor. This time, we're gonna keep the hands down, inhale up to baby cobra. See how far you can go without using your hands. And then if you like, push down with your hands, your arms to lift up into cobra. And then exhale, back down. Nice, let's push up to knees. Curl the toes under and lift the knees. And then lift the hips up and back to downward facing dog. We'll breathe in and out here. And then looking forward, we'll walk our feet up, planting feet beneath us. With your feet about hip distance apart, bend your knees, lower your hips, bring your hands to heart, keep your hips low, lift your chest up. So we're sitting back in chair pose. Reach your arms forward and maybe sit back a little deeper. Take one arm, sweep it down and behind you. Inhale and twist in that direction. Exhale, sweep that arm down and forward. Take the other arm, sweep it down and behind you. Inhale and twist in that direction. Exhale, sweep that arm down and forward. Sitting back in your chair, can you lift your arms up alongside your ears and then push into your feet and legs to inhale and rise up. And then we'll exhale our arms down at our sides. Nice. If you're not at the front of the mat, step up to the front of the mat. Ground down through the feet, stand tall, reach the arms out and up. Extend your spine. And then swan dive forward. Bring your hands to the mat and step back to downward facing dog. Take a breath in and out here. Bring the shoulders over the wrists, dropping into straight arm plank. Take a breath here. You could try a little bend in the elbows, not letting those hips drop down. Take another breath here. Exhale and lower yourself all the way down to prone mountain, chest close to the ground, back of the neck long. Inhale up to baby cobra or cobra. Exhale back down. Make your way up and back to downward facing dog. Breathe in and out here. All right, we're going to drop to knees. If you want to cushion your knees with a blanket, you can. And then let's just step the right foot out in front. So that foot is in line with that hip. And we're going to just let the hip sink forward. So this front knee bends forward, the back hip is moving forward, stretching into that thigh and hip flexor. All right, so you can stay here. You could, if being on your knee is not good for you, you could be lunging, holding onto a chair. Could we curl the back toe under and lift up into a lunge? If you need to reposition to get into this position, go ahead and do so. Use a chair, use a wall. Get into a lunge with your right leg forward. Bring your hands to your hips. Now, if being on the ball of your back foot doesn't work for you, you could drop that heel down, but then it's going to have a different effect because this hip's going to be behind this hip. If you can roll onto the ball of the foot and have both hips square to the front of the mat, you're going to get a deeper stretch here. So we're going to bend the front knee and straighten the front knee. And again, if you need a chair or a wall for support, that's fine. So let's bend the front knee and straighten the front knee. And you can do this moving with your breath. You can inhale to straighten and exhale to bend. When we focus on the breathing, it helps to focus our awareness. Notice the feeling of your breath. Notice the feeling of your body. So the next time the front knee is bent, let's pause here. Can you think about the energy of your knee and shin moving forward, and at the same time, the energy of that same sitting bone drawing back to stabilize that front leg? Can you think about the energy flowing out through your back heel as you lift your heart up? Let's drop the arms down, reach them out, and inhale and reach them up. Lift the ribs, lift the shoulders, stretch up with a big breath in, and then we'll exhale our hands down. Let's just drop onto the back knee. We'll push the weight back, and we're going to change legs. So we're going to be on the other knee, other foot stepping out in front. And we're just going to let that front knee bend and let the back hip sink down. Keep a little tone in your belly here to support your low back, so you're not just dropping into your low back. So you're starting to stretch into this back thigh and hip flexor. Now from here, we're going to transition to a lunge. So some of us might be able to just curl the toes under and press up to lunge, or however you need to get into this position, maybe using a chair or the wall. Have your feet as wide as your hips here. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale and straighten the front leg. Exhale and bend the front knee. So we're going to do this movement a few times. Focus on your breath, your body, your movement, how you're feeling as you move, as you breathe. The stability, the grounding in the front foot. Pressing that foot into the earth. The next time the front knee is bent, pause here. Energy of the knee and shin going forward. Same sitting bone draws back. Energy out through your back heel as you lift your heart up. Drop your arms down. Reach them out. Inhale and reach up, lift up. And we'll exhale our hands down to the floor. We can drop onto that back knee. All right. And let's just transition to child's pose. So sitting back on your heels, rounding over, maybe supporting your head, maybe your forehead's on the floor and your arms are out in front or alongside your body. Take a moment to check in, breathe, offer yourself some love, kindness, encouragement, support. With our next inhale, let's lift our heads up, reach our arms out, make our way to downward facing dog. We'll breathe in and out here. Looking forward, we'll walk our feet up, plant our feet beneath us. And let's just reverse swan dive. We'll sweep our arms out, inhale and rise up, reach up. And we'll exhale, arms down at our side. Great. Let's turn again and face the computer with a very wide stride now. Well, let's start turning this way. Let's turn the right foot in and turn the left foot out. So get your feet solid. So there's even weight on the inner and outer edges of your back foot. And we'll just start by bending and straightening the front knee. So just explore how far you want to go into that bend. And as you bend this front leg, can you keep your back foot firmly grounded, especially the outer edge of that back foot? And then the next time the front knee is bent, pause there and bring your hands to heart. So now let's turn the chest so it's square to the camera or the long line of our mat. So we've rotated a little bit. And then take the arms and reach them out. Spread them out, nice and wide. So we're long from fingertip to fingertip, and the spine is nice and upright here. So right now you're probably looking forward at your camera. I want you to keep your head facing the direction it is, but turn your gaze to the left, towards this front leg. So turn your gaze sideways towards your hand that's out over your bent leg. And then let your gaze follow. Yeah. So now your gaze and your head are facing that front arm. Take a breath here, letting your spine rise up. As we exhale, let's tip the hips over. Let that front arm drop onto that leg. Take the back arm up and then turn the palm down as you bring that arm alongside your cheek or ear. Turn your thumb up a little bit, actually, so that arm kind of rolls down, and then roll your belly and chest towards the computer or camera. Reach long with that arm and take a breath. And then take that arm back up, and we're gonna let that hand come onto the hip. Turn your gaze now down so you see that foot on the floor. Take this bottom hand and place your hand on your shin. As you're looking down at your foot, I want you to see if you can keep your head right where it is and not let it draw back as you start to straighten your front leg. So the tendency would be for the head to pull back, but can you keep your head right where it is as you try to straighten your front leg, which will force you to lengthen your spine. That front leg may not get straight, but just moving towards straight. Take a breath here. Spine nice and long. Exhale, you can put a little bend in the knee. We're gonna push ourselves up. And we'll do that all on the other side. So turn that foot in and turn your other foot out. All right, really get that back foot solidly planted, including the outer edge of that back foot, and then begin to bend and straighten the front knee. And you decide how wide apart your legs are, how deep the bend is in your knee, what feels right for you this morning. Then the next time the knee is bent, pause there. Bring your hands to heart. Turn the chest a little more towards the camera or the long line of your mat. And then take the arms and spread them out. Open across the chest and back, tall through the spine. Take a breath here. As you exhale, keep your head facing the direction it is, but turn your gaze towards this front bent knee. So you're towards the hand over the front bent knee. Your head doesn't turn, but your gaze turns to the side. And then let your head follow your gaze. So you're looking out over that front arm. Take a breath here. Exhale and tip your hips over. Bring that bottom arm on the leg. Take the other arm, reach it up. Turn the palm toward the ground and bring that arm alongside your cheek or ear. Then roll the thumb up, kind of rolling the arm down, and roll the belly and chest towards the computer. Reaching long with that arm. Take a breath. And then let that arm come up. Bring that hand on your hip. Now turn the gaze down so you're looking at that front foot. And keep your eyes exactly where they are. You can take this front hand, place it on your shin. Keep your eyes exactly where they are and try to straighten your front leg, not allowing your head to draw back. And you may notice a nice lengthening in your low back here. Breathe in and out. And then bend the front knee a bit, push into the front leg to bring yourself up. Great, turn that foot in. Let's just bring our feet together. All right, we're going to come down onto our mat. And trying to remember what we're going to do next. Sit with your legs out in front. And if when your legs are out in front, if you tend to be kind of rocked back, then you're going to want to sit up on a blanket so that you can have a more neutral upright spine. So as you're here, rooting down and sitting up tall, take your arms out, inhale and reach them up. Get your spine nice and long, and then take the arms out and see if you can hinge forward, meaning moving from the crease of your hip. So we're not going to bend forward or bend the head. We're just seeing what's our ability to hinge. And could you press your heels down? So that might put a little bend in your knees. It will make this a more active stretch into the legs. So we're exploring our ability to hinge here. Let's bring our hands onto the leg. Take a breath here with your spine still long, hinged forward. And then as we exhale, we're going to let the back round. So if you want to bend your knees more, that's fine. We're going to let the low back, the mid back, and the upper back round. Your hands can be anywhere along your legs. If they reach the feet, go ahead and grab around the outer edges of the feet and press into the balls of your feet. Breathe into your back and let your breath empty out. And then just begin to roll yourself back up. And that spinal articulation again. All right, let's try that with straddle legs. So again, some of us are going to find it's easier if we sit up on a blanket. So again, can we press the heels down, which might put a little bend in the knees. It creates more action in the legs. And as you're here, you might have your hands behind. That might be better for you. Can you straighten up? Just straightening up for some of us is challenging. Some of us may be able to hinge forward. If we do, we might bring our hands on our legs. We might bring our hands to the floor. We're still pressing our heels down and just exploring our ability to hinge forward. We'll take a breath here. And then as we exhale, we can let the back round, low back, mid back, upper back, head. Relaxing down. Take a breath into your back. Let it go. And then draw your belly in and roll yourself up. Great. All right, I remembered the thing I wanted to do before this. We're going to come the long line of the mat, and we're going to take our hands behind. So when our hands go behind, your tendency might be to turn your fingers out, but as much as you can, turn your fingers in. So your arms are internally rotated. Some of us, our fingertips might be able to point towards the feet. Some of us, our arms might be a little more turned out, but we're going to not externally rotate if we can. Have your feet about hip distance apart. So initially, you could be leaning back with your elbows bent. I want you to broaden across your collarbones, across your shoulders, create space there, and then try to straighten your arms a bit if you can. Then push down into your feet and lift your hips up. It's called tabletop. Can you activate your hamstrings and glutes to lift your hips nice and high as you look up at the ceiling? We're just activating the back of the legs. Push your feet down, lift your hips up, take a deep breath, broaden across your shoulders, and then exhale and lower back down. All right, straighten your legs, shake out your wrists a little bit. This can be hard on wrists. If it's too much for your wrists, you could be here. Okay, you could be on your forearms. So we're going to do the same thing with straight legs. So again, some angle of internal rotation on your hands behind. Your hands are a little behind your shoulders. Can you broaden your chest, straighten your arms a bit, feet hip distance apart, press into your heels and lift your hips up. So again, you're working along the back line of your legs, trying to make your body as long as possible from heels to shoulders. Take a breath, and then lower yourself down. Nice work. Shake it out. All right, turn towards the computer, and I want you to lean back again. Take your feet wider than your hips. All right, roll to the sides of your feet. So you're rolling to the sides of your feet, your knees are dropping over to one side. Take your hand from behind and bring it along till both your legs find the floor. Once we've got these bent knee position with the legs on the ground, you could have a tighter angle of your legs, or you could have a wider angle of your legs. What feels best for your body? Now come around and place your hands on either side of this front knee and lower your chest down over that thigh, over that knee, coming onto your forearms, and maybe dropping a little further down. So you have your weight over this front thigh and you're getting a stretch into that front hip. That's what we're going for here. So let's breathe into that front hip. And let the breath empty out. If you feel like you're not feeling that stretch in that front hip, maybe shift the angle of your upper body a little bit so that you feel a stretch into that outer hip. And breathe deeply. One more breath in and out. And then lift your head up, bring your hands down, push your chest up. We're going to lean back and bring the knees up, and then roll to the sides, the other sides of the feet until your legs come all the way down. That arm from behind comes off the floor. Again, you can change the angle as we come into this. You might want more of a right angle. You might want a tighter angle. We're going to come around, hands on either side of the front knee, and then lower down over that thigh, over that knee, and start to breathe into that front hip. If you're not feeling the stretch, you might adjust the angle of your front leg or slightly shift your upper body. Find a way to feel a stretch in that front hip and then breathe in and out. That outer hip. One more deep breath in and out. And then lift your head. Place your hands down, lift your chest. Go ahead and lean back, bring your knees up, and drop your legs. All right, we're gonna make our way onto our back. So we're gonna lower ourselves down. Let's just hug the right knee in, extend the left leg out straight. You can kind of bounce or wiggle that left leg on the floor. Make sure it's nice and loose and heavy as your right knee hugs in close. With your right hand, open that knee out to the side. Take a breath. And then bring it back in on the exhale. We're going to lift that leg up in the air, reaching around, holding behind the thigh. Press the thigh into the hands till your arms are straight. Push your heel up, pull your toes towards you. Stretch your toes up, and then squeeze or scrunch your toes, stretching into the top of the foot. Wiggle that out a little bit. Maybe slide your hand a little further up the leg for a little deeper stretch if that feels right today. Press the leg into your hands. Take a breath. And then bend that knee. Release that foot. Let's do the other leg. Hug the other knee in. Extend that first leg out. Bounce it or wiggle it. Let it be loose and heavy on the ground. With your left hand, open that knee out to the side, taking a breath. Bring the knee back. Lift the leg up. Grab behind the thigh. Press into the hands till the leg's a little further away. Flex your foot. Point your toes. Squeeze or scrunch your toes. Shake that off. Maybe slide the hands a little further up the leg if that feels appropriate for you. Take a breath. And then bend that knee. Release that foot. Let's bring both knees in now. Hug them in close. We'll finish up with clamshell. So let's roll towards the computer or the camera, dropping the legs one stacked on top of the other. The bottom arm is out on the floor. And then take your other hand, place it palm to palm, finger to fingertip. And then bring your knees up close to your elbows so you're tucked in tight. Then take your top arm, reach it toward the ceiling, reach it back behind you, rolling your chest and your gaze up toward the ceiling. Try to keep your knees stacked as you do this. And then breathe deeply. Breathe in and down into your side waist. And then let that breath empty all the way out. Couple more deep breaths. Feel the movement in your body and let the exhale be a releasing and a letting go. Nice. Take the arm from behind, bring it up, bring it down, roll onto your back, all the way to the other side. So now your other arm is out on the floor in front of you. Your knees are stacked, bringing palm to palm. Then bring your knees up close to your elbows. Then lift your top arm up, reach it back behind you, rolling your chest and your gaze up toward the ceiling. Try to keep your knees stacked if you can. And then breathe in and out here. Twists are a lovely way to kind of loosen things up, kind of free up the body. And in the body is where we hold our emotions, our frustration, our tension, our stress, our anger. It's all in there. And when we twist and breathe, we have a chance to loosen those things up and let them go. So use the breath to move things around. And use the exhale to release what is no longer serving you. One more deep breath in and out. Letting whatever's heavy, your burdens, flow out with your exhale. Nice. Let the arm from behind come back up. And come back down. And we'll start to transition to our final relaxation. So taking some time to get warm and comfortable, using whatever would facilitate that, maybe a pillow, maybe a blanket, maybe a bolster. Maybe if you're on a hardwood floor, maybe cushioning with something underneath you. So what would allow you to be the most comfortable? Set yourself up in that way so that when you lie back, it feels nice. And your body, therefore, will be able to relax. So allow that to happen. Allow the heaviness of your body to release into the floor. And know that right here, right now, you are just perfectly, however you are. It's all good. There's nothing you have to do or change or fix now. We're going to let ourselves just be however we want to be, however the body lands. It's great. We're letting the body connect with its own innate wisdom, which understands that there's nothing we have to do right now. So the muscles that hold us up can relax. And all those muscles that we tend to grip and clench and furrow and cling with can release and soften now. This is the time and the space that we make for letting the body relax. Without being asleep in this awake conscious state, we can still find deep relaxation by just allowing the body to relax, to settle and soften and release. Allowing ourselves to just be without having to do or think or plan. Just be. And I'll share a little reading this morning from Mark Nepo's Book of Awakening. It's called We Are Rare. And it starts with a little statement that we are rare, not perfect. He says, with our hands full of groceries, our heads full of things to do, our hearts full of memories, and our dreams full of plans, we tend to think if we could only get away or finish crossing off the things on that list, if we could only undo what has been done or do what needs to be done, we might then live more completely, more perfectly. But we are human beings, flawed, colorful beings. This is a deep paradox at work in us. For though we aspire to self-mastery and peace of mind, we are only momentarily whole. As conscious beings living in bodies, we are worn down by the days until we flash open to everything These are moments of enlightenment, when the clarity and compassion of centuries rise in us, and we are suddenly more than we are, only to trip on the garbage the very next day, or to say something hurtful the very next minute to the one we love most. I used to think of these come downs as failures, as evidence that I wasn't trying hard enough, and they would prick me with slivers of inadequacy. I often felt discouraged, as if there were something essential I just couldn't learn. For a while, I felt deeply flawed. But I have come to understand that this is only the earthliness of our human condition. It is not to be corrected or eliminated or transcended, just accepted. We are in moments pure and ageless as light, and with the very next breath, we drop things or bruise the treasures of a lifetime. We need to soothe ourselves, not blame ourselves. We are rare, not perfect, and seemed destined to know all there is briefly, only to pound it into bread. So I thought that was pretty nice reading. So you might have already made your way out of your final resting pose, and if not, you can transition now. And if you need to move off into your day, it was great to be with you. And if you want to come over and say hello or goodbye, that would be lovely.